Hi, it's me, back with some more Limbus Company on today, July 10th. So funny story, I did the intro for this, and I was not recording. So, I already have the Etchi South Section 4 director Meursault. I'm sorry you're not going to be able to see the poll cutscene for that. I don't even know how I managed to do that. I was talking for like 3 minutes without even realizing, and then I pulled the ID using shards, and I'm sorry, okay? Yeah, that's just something that has happened. But I'd like to call this banner the Glasses banner, because for some reason, both of the new things we got for it have glasses. If it's going to even... I don't know, it keeps showing Meursault. There's the Etchi Meursault, but then there's also Contempt E.G.O. Contempt, Awe is like the worst name for an E.G.O, by the way. So we are unfortunately gonna have to call it just Contempt for now, for the sake of brevity. But look at that art. That art is incredible. I don't know why she has glasses. And then she just becomes the hands of the spiral, and she levitates a cow. What a great ability to have, the ability to levitate a cow when you're angry. Anyways, no, that's over with. You can see my mistake in its full representation here.
추먹에 휘감긴 이 광희의 차는 켜켜이 쌓아온 지식의 무게를 바라여 너를 깨부술지니.
You really do be punching a guy. That is a rather straightforward question. This is Honglu and I'm assuming Rhodia? Unlike information, the accumulation of knowledge involves 2 extra steps, perception and understanding. One must apply various perspectives to what information is gained, make it their own, and only then does it become knowledge. Sounds of rustling papers fill the library. The child does not look away from the pages of his book as he responds to the notepad scribbling interviewer. So just looking at or listening to something once isn't enough. That's not exactly straightforward, but I think I get what you mean. And the purpose of the late-night study sessions is to gain a deeper understanding of, so they're in order to gain more knowledge. The interviewer took detailed notes of every word coming out of the child's mouth. She didn't forget to constantly ask him questions like a good student either. The interviewer grew increasingly excited with every detailed answer the child gave. She was finally getting some real answers from her interview subject for once, so she intended to get the most out of this interviewer as she could, especially as her other subjects weren't as receptive to her questions. She might even be crying tears of joy inside. That is certainly one of many perspectives from which to view our practice. It is most likely not incorrect if incomplete. Incomplete? You mean that there are other reasons? These late-night study sessions double as catch-up sessions. They are the best time to replenish knowledge lost during a contract. New knowledge can be gained in the process of relearning what was lost. That is the core of the DHE Association's late-night study sessions. Right, I get it now. While solidifying what you've studied before is important, you shouldn't neglect to learn completely new things either. That's some wisdom right there. So, how's that going? The sound of a rustling bag of chips echoed from somewhere in the room. There was an infinitesimal twitch by his brows. The interviewer couldn't help but cover her mouth to hide her laughter. The child narrows his eyes, scanning the room for the culprit who dared make that noise, before letting out the smallest groan of frustration. We are making the intended progress despite some certain shortcomings. I know this can't possibly be easy. The interviewer lightly chuckles to herself after scribbling the following observation in the notepad. Pretty unfriendly, but also less of a hard-ass than expected. Next question. So another popular image of the DHE Association is that it is an association that specializes in contracts involving relics and ruins. Do you have any personal opinions regarding those contracts? I merely carry out the will of those who have taken me under their wings. If you would like to hear my reply still, I should be able to formulate a sufficient reply based on available information. Each relic has its idiosyncrasies in usage and mechanisms. Naturally, using them requires deep study and analysis. That is the process during which we gain an abundance of first-rate knowledge, and even have first-hand experience of the unique atmosphere of the ruins. I judge them to be one of the foremost sites of education. Ruins as sites of education, huh? Well, that's certainly a unique but impressive perspective. Though the interviewer's notes say, "I have no idea what he's talking about, but that sounds pretty impressive," she flashed a big, knowing smile back at the child. Alright then, last question, and I'll get out of your hair. Do you have any long-term goals as a fixer, Director? Maybe there's some coveted knowledge that you're seeking. My goal is to be granted audience with the Saint. The Saint? How are they like? In each cardinal branch of the DHE Association is a saint. They are wise people, all individuals of unfathomable grand repositories of knowledge. Ooh, I see. So you have people to look up to. If you're making such a big deal out of gaining even an audience with them, I guess they're really busy? It would be accurate to state that I, at this moment, cannot meet them. So there's some kind of a condition you have to fulfill. I must continue to persevere in my studies and grow my repository of knowledge. Haha, then I guess it's only a matter of time before you gain an audience with them. Well, looks like that's everything. We can... A loud alarm blared through the halls of the library just as the interviewer was putting her notebook back into her pocket. A librarian ran toward the child and whispered something into his ear. He nodded calmly in response. The child's relative composure heavily contrasted with the interviewer's panic. It appears that someone has broken into this establishment in search of our holy relic. Holy relic? Huh? Wait. So I'm guessing that the saint in this alternate universe is probably Dante. Like, this is something I haven't really mentioned before, but I'm assuming that every one of the alternate worlds have Dante in them in some fashion, and he's probably leading them. I'm not assuming it's one of the main sinners, because that seems like a very powerful position, and they are not very powerful people. High-ranking fixers might have heard about DHE Association's holy relics, but the interviewer's knowledge extended only as far as the rumors did. She cocked her head to the side, not sure what he was talking about. The interviewer sat in silence, anticipatingly looking at the child for an answer, but he showed no signs of reciprocating her expectations. Who could it be? To raid an association is... Another new syndicate covets our holy relic. I assume this invasion is their doing. They wear red masks emblematic of their organization. It should not be very difficult to identify them. The child rose from his seat and wrapped his stoles over his fists. The interviewer's wandering eyes soon turned into a look of concern for the child. If they're bold enough to break into an association office, then it's likely that they're no mere backstreets ruffians. Red mask. I don't think we've ever met any characters with red masks other than the dead rabbits, but I don't know why they would be related to this. Please be careful. There is no need to worry. I have been rather studious as of late. The syndicate's henchman looks around nervously with a key in his hand. Damn it. I thought this was supposed to be one of the holy relics, but this ain't even a relic. Well, of course, because the true holy relics of the DHE Association are held by its saints and only its saints. The keys and stoles that the other librarians use are just downgraded versions of the true holy relics. You mistook the holy relic's blessing for the relic itself, allowing misinformation to guide your path. Well, in for a non, in for a... Screw it, I'll use this to... The henchman rushes forward, the key in his hand, but the child doesn't even blink an eye. The brilliant light of knowledge, so diligently studied, focuses in the child's fists. And the building soon echoes with the heavy noise of crumbling floor. Once things have calmed down somewhat, the interviewer carefully exited the room, only to be greeted by a surprising sight. Before her were numerous syndicate members splayed out across the demolished floor, and the completely unharmed child stood tall amidst them. The interviewer whips out her notepad and begins furiously scribbling down the scene before her. The child she interviewed earlier, the one with a particularly large appetite, told her that the DHE Association was more than just an educational facility, but hearing it and seeing it in person are two different things. The invading syndicate members were learning this the hard way as well. While the interviewer assumed that the syndicate members would have an ace up their sleeves, considering they're bold enough to attack an association office, there was something that the syndicate members missed. It was that the DHE Association was not an association of frail scholars. I have beaten wisdom into this foe, for it has chosen to face me. But a powerful fist honed by endless erudition and experience. He really just said, taste my fist, and then killed them. That seems about right, yeah. Okay, D.G. Association South Section 4 Director Meursault. Medium speed, which is neat. 47 defense level, slightly above average, and 209 HP, slightly above average. About what you would expect from D.G. Association. Skills. Study Hall. 2 Gloom Resonance. Every time other allies discard a skill, apply 1 erudition to the ally and self, once per skill, 3 times per turn. And turn end, next turn, gain pierce damage up and blunt damage up equal to the number of other allies that discarded skills. I don't believe that there is a single skill that this unit can use that isn't pierce or blunt. I'm pretty sure Meursault has 0/E.G.O. So that will always activate. Erudition is new. Max value of 6. When discarding a skill, gain erudition times 1.5%, so a maximum of 9% of this unit's max HP as shield once per turn. If this unit discards a skill at 2+ insight, gain 1 clash power once per turn. And reduced by 1 when taking HP damage after getting hit by an enemy's attack skill. Expires when staggered. That reduction only happens if you don't have shield, which makes sense because you're getting shield from it. It's a pretty decent passive. 2 Gloom Resonance is really easy to hit. Diligent Learning, 5 Gloom owned. When one ally with the highest max HP discards a skill, gain 5 times discarded skill rank % of the max HP as shield once per turn, and if the unit has insight, multiply the above shield value by 1.5. So this is just a really big bonus to D.G. Rhodia. I'm not sure that this ID will be good enough to be used in sinking, but if it's not, then this is a fantastic passive for the sinking team. Fantastic support passive, I should say. Defense skill, Fixated Study. It's a 12 to 17 block. On use, discard 1 skill of the highest rank in all of this unit's skill slots. That's about what you would expect for a defense skill from D.G. Skill 1, Studious Dedication. It's a 3 to 11 Gluttony Blunt skill with 2 coins. Gain Insight times 4% of max HP shield if this skill is discarded. On use, discard 1 skill of the lowest rank in all of this unit's skill slots. On use, at 2+ Insight, Clash Power +1, and on Clash Win, gain 2 Erudition once per turn. I'm assuming that means you can't gain Erudition from the same skill more than once per turn. And then Coin 2, on hit, inflict 2 sinking count, which is actually a lot for a skill 1. Plus expecting a smaller number with that. Anyways, Skill 2, Moment of Erudition is a 4 to 16 Pierce Sloth skill with 2 coins. Deal 3% more damage for every insight on self, max 9%, okay. Combat start, apply erudition equal to insight on self to a random ally and on self. Prioritizes allies with discard that has the least erudition. On use, discard 2 of this unit's skill slots in ascending order of ranks from all of the skill slots. On use, if the target has 6+ sinking, coin power +1, so this can move from a 4 to 18. Skill 2, on hit, inflict sinking equal to insight. We've seen this on the D.G. before. It is alright. And then Skill 3, Scorch Knowledge, is a 4 to 16 Blunt Gloom skill with 3 coins. Deal 3% more damage for every insight on self, max 18%. If the target has 6+ sinking, coin power +1, so it can move from a 4 to 19. Before attack, consume all erudition on self and gain half of the value as additional insight rounded down. So you can get 3 more insight than normal. After attack, at 4+ insight, reset value to 1. And if the skill defeats an enemy, reset it to 3 instead. Neat. This is the only unit that can ever have more than 3 insight, and it resets after having it. Coin 3, on hit, inflict sinking, potency, and count equal to insight value against the target. How much of it is sinking, potency, or count is randomly determined. This is an annoying effect. It could potentially be 6 sinking count, which is very sinking positive, but it could also be 6 potency, which is very sinking negative. And this is the main reason I'm not sure whether or not this unit will be particularly good in sinking. But who knows, maybe it'll just be really nice. And so that's his main kit, but what about at Uptie 4? Skill 1 gains Insight -1 Clash Power up to 2. So this could clash actually pretty decently, that's nice. And gain an additional % of max HP as shield whenever it's discarded. Skill 2, 2% more damage for every insight up to 15%. The combat start effect applies to 2 random allies and self instead of just 1 random ally. Coin power +1 for every 6 sinking on the target, so you can get up to 2 coin power, making it a 4 to 20 at maximum. And then on hit, inflict sinking equal to insight times 2, so it can inflict 6 sinking, which is not bad. Scorch Knowledge gains 1 skill power. It's very rare that you see that, so this becomes a 5 to 20 at maximum. Deal 5% more damage for every insight, up to 45... Wait, that means 9. Oh. Up to 45%. Coin power +1 for every 6 sinking, so you can get 2 coin power, so it can become a 5 to... Wait a minute, that's not how math works. 5 to 23. Consume all erudition and gain the same value as additional insight instead of half. And that's the change. That's a really good skill 3. Block becomes Gloom, gains 3 skill power, and also gains 6 aggro to this skill slot next turn. Why? Like, that would make sense if any of its other skills gained aggro, but they just don't. Judging by the Sin affinities, we've got a Sun Shower user. A Sun Shower fueler, I should say. Both Sun Showers, in fact. Thankfully, both Sun Shower users have sinking IDs, so this will pair pretty well with them. In terms of what ego he wants to use, he doesn't really fuel any of his own ego, unfortunately. He has Gloom to fuel all of them, but none of them need Gluttony. And the only one that needs Sloth, if I remember correctly, is... Oh, I guess Pursuance and Chains of Others both need Sloth, huh? And Capote also needs Sloth, but Capote doesn't need Gloom, so... He doesn't really fuel any of his own ego super well, but he does have decent synergy with the ego of other sinners, specifically Yisang and Otis. The single greatest ego art to ever be added to the game. Alrighty, Contempt E.G.O. Also just Contempt Ryoshu. If you want to, like, say it normally. This is a 20 sanity cost ego. Vav ego. It is a 8 to math. 820 / lust ego with 2 coins. For some reason. Costs 3 wrath, 4 lust, 4 pride, and 3 envy. And this is why I don't think we're going to be able to use it in the same fight as the Diechi, because they do not generate, like, any pride at all. So, yeah, there's that problem. So this is interesting because it's a slash AoE, but it's not really an AoE. It has an attack weight of 1. That's very disappointing. Before attack, gain highest resonance attack weight, max 4. So it can get up to 5 weight, which is decent. Before attack, gain highest resonance +1, Gaze of Contempt up to 7. And after attack for 2 turns, lose 10 SP. So in essence, it's costing 40, but you only pay half up front. Gaze of Contempt says, max value 7, deal 7% more damage for every Gaze of Contempt. On turn end, this effect expires. If at 7 Gaze of Contempt, convert it into Contempt of the Gaze instead of next turn instead of expiring. We don't get to see what that does, but I believe it's like the opposite. It gives you damage down, but also gives you protection. Coin 2 says, after attack, evenly inflict 15 bleed between all targets. So if you hit 5 targets, that's 3 bleed each. That's really terrible, actually. This ego already doesn't really seem that great. The Corrosion is a 40 to 22? That rolls significantly higher, but it's single weight. Indiscriminate, targets randomly. Before attack, gains 7 Gaze of Contempt. Okay, I see what we're doing here. On hit, if the target has bleed, deal plus the sum of the bleed potency and count on target percent more damage up to 40%. On hit, inflict 3 plus highest resonance times 2 bleed, max of 15 rounded down. And on hit, inflict 3 bleed count. That's a lot of bleed and a lot of stuff I don't want to use because this corrosion costs 21 sin resources. Yeah. So, it would be 5 wrath, 6 lust, 6 pride, and 5 envy. That's actually 22 resources. And then the passive, Mark of the Gaze. Whenever the unit uses a base attack skill against an enemy, gain 1 additional ego resource for a random, least-owned affinity that doesn't correspond to the affinity of the attack skill used. This is an insanely powerful passive. Granted, it's locked behind what is tied for the most expensive ego in the game, resource-wise. Tied with Garden of Thorns, in case you were wondering. At 14 resources, which is incredibly inexpensive. And most teams... I mean, a bleed team can easily feel this, because it's lust, pride, envy. The wrath might be a little bit more tricky, but, you know... You know what team feels this really easily? Burn, for some reason. So I'm gonna have to thread spin this to 4 anyways, since I do use Ryoshu in that team. If we get it to thread spin 4, which I will be doing, it becomes a 10 to 24. Before attack, gain highest resonance attacks weight up to 6. Gains Gaze of Contempt this turn and next turn. After attack, if the skill was part of a Lust Resonance, gain 1 ego resource in affinities corresponding to each of these units' attack skills, so it refunds 3, which is nice, and that's all that changes. That's still not great, let's be real here. The Corrosion becomes a 44 to 24, still single target, unfortunately. If the skill was part of a Lust Resonance, gain 1 ego resource in affinities corresponding to each of this unit's attack skills, so again, refunds 3. Up to 60% instead of 40%. Inflict 10 plus highest resonance times 2.5 bleed up to 25, and inflict 2 additional bleed count. I gotta be honest, this ego, while it looks fantastic, it doesn't seem very good. It's a lot of bleed count, or... Well, the Corrosion is a lot of bleed count, but that's single target. And it obviously gives a decent damage bonus. If you manage to do 5 resonance, then that is, what, 6 times 7, so 42% additional damage for the current turn and the next turn. That's not, like, an insane amount. I think the ID that most synergizes with this is probably RB Sous Chef. Or no, sorry, RB Chef de Cuisine. Sous Chef is Gregor. That's just because it's a bleed ID. And the actual best one is Butler. Because it is a good ID. That's not saying RB Chef de Cuisine is bad. I think it's a good ID. It's just that playing bleed is still kind of a nebulous idea, in my opinion. So I'm not entirely sure how good this is. I'll get it to thread spin 4 so that everybody can test it out. Yes sir, here we go. I like that everybody rolled a 4. But here's the full DHG Section 4 squad, with Meursault at their head. And we've got a lot of Lust skills lined up, which is good because that's the one, or Sloth skills lined up because that's the one Meursault is going to want to use anyways. So yeah, I'm not even gonna bother trying using Contempt in this fight at the same time. Oh, I should have used Honglu's skill too. Oh well. It doesn't really matter. He's still amazing, right? As such, he is a Diechi ID, so there are 2 ways that you're able to play him. Either you just ignore his skill 1, which is how I tend to play it, or you discard a skill 3 as soon as possible and then just use whatever the game gives you. For all of them except Honglu, I actually prefer to ignore skill 1. On this one, I'm genuinely not sure how you'd want to do it. This is unfortunately not full power, but I had 2 of his skill 3, which is just unlucky. But that's fine. Oh yeah, I brought along the butlers because they like to punch too. Or at least some of the butlers, anyways. Anyways. There we go. Now we can discard a skill 3 on Honglu. Which is what I should have done originally to begin with, but whatever. Yeah, we're gonna learn whether or not discarding skill 1 or skill 3 is better on Meursault. Getting the 9 insight seems a little unlikely. But oh well. So already he's kind of starting to feel like an ID that wants to discard a skill 3. Not unlike Honglu. And honestly, having now started using Yi-Sang, it kind of feels like Yi-Sang is the same way. I'll be real with you, I don't use that ID at all. But I do use the other 2, in syncing at least. And they seem to do pretty well, all things considered. Meursault, so far, has been okay. He's not terrible. He's definitely still pretty good. I don't know how he holds up to the rest in terms of actual, like, competency, though. Because we've already... Why the heck does Rhodia have 6 erudition? When did that happen? That's, like, just good. That's clash power for them. And that's, like, the big thing. The fact that erudition gives clash power to the other Diechi means that, well, you can kind of just see Yi-Sang is taking, like, no damage whatsoever. Because he has so much shield from discarding. But that's one thing, though. They have to discard to take advantage of this. And so, you know... Okay, I can get a skill 3 discarded right now. Is that the play? I think so. I want to see what it's like to see. I also want to discard your skill 3, actually. Because we can stay at 3 insight, that would be nice. Also, it gives him 2 clash power with skill 1 once I do that. So... Jesus, I'm not even getting to see Meursault do anything because the others are so flashy. Whoops. Anyways. He's gonna have a skill 3 next turn, so I'll be able to see that. And Rhodia is the only one with not max insight because that's just how I play that ID. Oh, I didn't even acknowledge, by the way, but his defense skill becomes Sloth. Wait, no it doesn't. That's Yi-Sang's. I'm so good at this. Trust. Bonk. He actually is cool. He's only got 1 arm that has the glowy fist on it. That's what we're calling it now, right? Anyways, let's check out this skill 3. Or he could get hit before he gets to do it. God dang it, man. This butler is about to get wrecked. Yeah, that was a good amount of damage, actually. He does lose all of his erudition for doing that. And since he isn't actually discarding, I guess it doesn't really matter. I think Yi-Sang should probably be not staying at 3 insight for this, because he actually discards. Honglu and Rhodia... I keep saying Rhodia. We're gonna get to that, trust. Honglu and Rhodia... No, it is Rhodia. Honglu and Rhodia... I'm so smart. Honglu doesn't care about erudition, because he's not discarding once he's at 3 insight. Rhodia and Yi-Sang do, because they will frequently discard once they're at maximum insight. Regardless of their insight, I should say. And that makes them more viable candidates for erudition. Meursault himself gets erudition regardless, so he doesn't really... Why does Otis have so much? When did that happen? She can't even take advantage of it. Also, I did notice it literally gives them the Clash Power buff. It's not just increasing their Clash Power arbitrarily like a lot of things do. It just gives them the buff. Bonk. That does not look like a Pierce skill, I have to be honest. Alright, let's finish this off the right way. With, Knowledge Blast. That's what I'm going to be calling that skill from now on. He actually had 2 blunt power up, too. He seems pretty good. He doesn't seem like he's, like... He's probably the best Meursault we have, aside from Blade Lineage. He was in slot 1, for the record. And he was 3rd highest for damage. He was also the... He also took damage, unlike these two. That's about where I would put him in terms of the DHE rankings. Obviously, Honglu is still the king of damage, and Rhodia is going to be a lot more generally useful, but he is a good support for full discard teams if we ever get more discard IDs. Yisang, still kind of at the bottom of the group, obviously. He's one of those ones where it's just like, yeah, he's here, but he isn't really the big Yisang you'd probably want to use with this group. Though he is the only one that discards where he would want to have that. So, I don't know. You still can't make a full discard team, unfortunately. But these 3 would be guaranteed to be in it at the current time. Oh shit. Here we go again. Yeah, so time to test out Contempt E.G.O. I'm not expecting this to be particularly great, I'll be honest. But I can very easily get all of the Sin Affinities it needs with this team. So, probably the one that's hardest to get in this group is Wrath. But even then, that shouldn't be too bad. See, there's some. It's not even the move that she used. I used Ingredient Hunt, and she just went, oh yeah, cooking, that's right. I will try to use it with as high of a Lust Resonance as I can. This team isn't exactly built for Lust Resonance, but I'll try. Yeah, sure, I'll probably lose this clash, but that's okay. We are going to need a lot of resources of these types. Like, this is not the most optimal bleed team, by the way, but this is the team that best fuels the thing that we want while also being bleed. Like, look at this. This isn't even that much damage, and this is a damage skill. We will see both forms of the E.G.O, though. I am a little miffed about how weak it seems. I don't know, maybe it's better in proper bleed, but as it stands now, it doesn't seem that way to me. I will use the E.G.O at the start of the next wave, for the record. More pride would honestly be good here. And we're not actually getting that great of luck, because I haven't been able to do Lust Resonance yet to boost my sanity. That's good, that's a kill for Ishmael. She needs to get the kills. Yeah, but for what it does, it seems way too expensive in my opinion. Skill 1s only, or at least the lowest skills only. Actually, I'm gonna save that so that we can have higher Lust Resonance. Yeah, go ahead. I don't want to have a Lust Resonance of 6. That's one thing, is that the max, it gives you +1 Gaze of Contempt, and you don't want to get to 7, because that will gimp your damage output. Anyways, here we go. How much of a Lust Resonance can I do here? I can do 4, which is not bad. So this is going to be a 6... No, it's going to be a 5 target, which is still good, let's be real here. It's just not as good as I would have liked. That's okay.
뿌려져라. 추악한 모든 시선이 이끌릴지.
It's actually so cool, too. It only hit 3 of them because these guys have 2 attack weight, by the way. Or slot weight, for some reason. Yeah, that's an insanely cool ego. Too bad it's not super practical outside of bleed. But that passive is really nice, I will say. Being able to generate additional resources every time you use a skill is really cool. I almost wish Ryoshu had an N-Corp ID. Because if anything, this seems like it'd go super hard in N-Corp, but you can't bring her an N-Corp if you want the full benefits from them, so... yeah. And I really don't see us getting another N-Corp ID anytime soon. I already have enough to do the corrosion, by the way, which we will be doing next turn. Or next wave, I should say. It's a cool-looking ego, though. I can't deny that. It is very, very cool. It oozes edginess, and that's always great. I didn't actually check the sanity costs of the corrosion, and it says 100% chance to corrode. You know what? So be it. We're here to see flashy animations, we're not here to be optimal. Honglu is so fast, actually. What the heck? Okay. Yes, please get some sanity back before you use the thing. Thank you.
꿰뚫을 정도의 뜨거운 혐오감을 쏟아낼지니.
Smash. Yeah, I can't really see the corrosion ever being practical with that high of an SP cost. That high of a resource SP cost. It's not as bad as Garden of Thorns, because Garden of Thorns obviously requires every single resource, and you can more easily build for one that requires only 4 of them. That was actually a ton of bleed count, now that I'm looking at it. But it's also, like, the damage of itself wasn't that high. Granted, I think these guys resist slash, but still. It might be a lot more useful against bosses now that I'm thinking about it. Because obviously inflicting more bleed against a boss means a lot more, because they're going to be on the field for longer. She's at -9 sanity. I need to actually go back and look to see how much sanity that costs to corrode into. Because it seems like it's a lot. Like, a lot, too. It's not just like... oh yeah, I'm gonna corrode into Everlasting for funny, use 60 SP. I just don't know how much it actually is. It becomes easier to use after you've used it once, because you get an additional ego resource every turn. Thanks to... or, an additional ego resource for every time Ryoshu uses a skill. Which means it actually pairs insanely well with Assist Attack. Now that I'm thinking about it. Because that's an additional resource for Assist Attack, too. Unfortunate. This is not a poise team, though, so I wasn't exactly expecting Rodia to do insanely well. That enemy has 1 HP. You know what? Just for the fun of it. That's actually... yeah. Oh. Right. I forgot bleed kills you. Whoops. Okay. Well, it was worth a shot, I suppose. And she did have the highest damage. And there we go. The glasses banner is done. So, Again, apologies that I wasn't able to record myself extracting Meursault. I don't even know what happened, and my mind just completely blanked and I didn't record it. Overall thoughts? Meursault seems pretty good. I'm not sure if he's necessarily going to be amazing in a sinking team because he doesn't have any ego that they really want in his kit at all. But he does give a lot more shields to Rhodia, who does not need it. So, like, you know, it's a win-win, or somehow. Contempt E.G.O, Ryoshu, gonna be honest, not really feeling it aside from the animation itself. Like, the art and the animation work is fantastic. The ego itself seems iffy. Like, gaining 42% damage up is obviously nice. There's nothing wrong with it, and the passive is incredible. But it's incredibly expensive, and also getting to it, even in Bleed, requires you to really focus on getting to it. And they have Sanguine Desire now. But I will probably be using it in my Burn team regardless, because Burn can feel it really well. So that's going to be helpful for them, too. It's going to be one of those ego where in Railway you're going to want to fire it off as soon as possible in every fight, just to gain a lot of resources. And, well, they do use a Ryoshu usually, so you're going to have it. But yeah, those are my thoughts. I am still working on the fixing the bad IDs video. Fixing in air quotes, because obviously it's just for fun, and some of my ideas will probably be out there, let's be real. This is on Friday because I was on somebody's stream yesterday, so I wouldn't be present for the premiere, but it is now Friday, so we have the premiere. Who knows, maybe we'll get on tomorrow morning, we'll get a reveal for an ID, and by tomorrow morning I will mean yesterday by the time you're seeing this. So yeah, thank you all for watching. I hope you have a great weekend, and I hope to see you back again later. Bye!